right, gentlemen, we have started this series where we're looking back at the top 50 moments arbitrarily in Canuck history, both good and bad, and we're doing it by decade. So we've started off with some of the moments in the 70s. It's truly remarkable to me how this franchise got off on the foot that they did and looking where they've ended up. I mean, some of these stories are hilarious. Being sued by the Western Hockey League for giving up the rights in the NHL, going, oh, that's your deal, not ours. Let us know when you paid the bill off. Seeing them lose 3 times in one day to the Buffalo Sabres in the expansion draft, the waiver draft, and of course the entry draft that saw them lose Gilbert Perreault. Seeing them start their first game off and people yelling taunts at them about, give the ball to Leroy in reference to the BC Lions, like they were second fiddle. To look back at some of the instances of this franchise, it's quite funny to see where the league is today and where they were when they started.
See, I eat this stuff up. Like I just love the nostalgia, and I love the old stories, and especially now that the statute of limitations has run out and people are willing to talk about just how crazy and insane things were. So, I really applaud the paper, and I'm not just saying this for lip service. I just think this is such a worthwhile project for a franchise that hasn't had the most spectacular history, but is continually produced these amazing stories.
There's always a curiosity level with the franchise, but with this exercise, like Ed said, it's really refreshing. I mean, whether you're talking to Jim Robson or the piece I'm working on being of a certain vintage, Ed, we can remember when some guy scored 40 goals for the Canucks, and I don't know how many went in. I don't know, Paul, how many went in off his pants or whatever, but the rare time that the Canucks were actually on television, I remember this big 6'3" guy with a pretty good skill set getting to the net on a very bad team that I think won 28 games that year and scoring 40 goals. I've had a chance to talk to Stan Smeal and Thomas Gradine, who played with him on that team, and I tell you, some of the tales they tell about Settlebauer are pretty intriguing.
That was
so
one
it's
of
a great exercise.
It was one of the great Cy Young seasons of all time. Didn't he have 18 assists to go with
and
the 40? And he was gone. He was
it
gone.
was a mirage, a hologram, as somebody used to
to
say. Yeah, hologram.
There's such great history that we didn't even realize with this team. And going back and looking at the original writing, you guys know we've just been through 3 years of Team Tank. And so we're researching the first time that the Canucks scored double figures. And they beat the California Golden Seals, third to last game of the season, 11-5. Thinking, what a great game this is to highlight. So we go back, we looked, it was the first time they had 3 20-goal scorers in the same season. But the headline on it was, Canucks send Lafleur to Canadians. And I'm like, they screwed up this headline. No, what had happened was when they beat the Seals, that gave California the number 1 pick overall, which the Canucks had been in line for all season. And the number 1 pick of the Seals went to the Montreal Canadiens, who was Hall of Famer Guy Lafleur. And I'm thinking back in their second season, they could have had a Hall of Famer. Instead, they didn't tank well enough.
Okay, if memory serves, the Seals got Ernie Hickey for that pick. That was the big. But the other part of this, and it when you talk
right
to people,
up there in the Camille trade.
I've talked to Bob Miller about this, the longtime Kings play-by-play, because the other part of this is, they were afraid Oakland was going to catch L.A. for the worst record in a bizarro world. So the Canadians sent Ralph Backstrom to the Kings to make sure that the Kings finished ahead for the stories are just so rich from this period, and the characters are so phenomenal. Have we touched Suitcase Smith yet, by the way? Is he coming up? Because I will so totally be there for that. Or Rosie Payman. And this is just like the first decade. So like I said,
and we're doing posters. So we have had the Gary Smith poster. Coming tomorrow is a Chris Odlefson poster. I know we've got extra copies on sale. It is great to highlight these guys from the 70s that people have forgotten about. So keep coming back to us all season. We got the 70s this month. In December, we'll do the 80s, January 90s, I think February the aughts, as we call them. And of course, 2010, we will get into this decade, along with the fine writing of these gentlemen. So keep coming to us, theprovince.com, vancouversun.com, to get these great stories and videos all season.